welcome to CMO Journeys, where we sit down with the marketing leaders shaping some of today's most innovative brands. I'm Christian Benak, and I love diving into the stories behind the CMOs and how they got to where they are and how they're thinking about partnering with agencies along the way. Today, I'm joined by Jess Alpert, Chief Marketing Officer at EPM, a national mortgage lender known for its mission to empower people more. Jess's path to the C-suite is anything but typical. She started in fashion, launched her own accessory brand, and eventually led creative marketing for Samsung before pivoting into fintech and financial services. She's a smiling disruptor who blends creative storytelling and a data-driven approach to growth. We're going to talk about her career pivots, vision for EPM's brand, and how she thinks about agency partnerships. Welcome to the show, Jess.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Great. So you are just stepping into this role. You're very new right now, but so far, I think as you said, it's been only 2 weeks. What's been the most exciting or surprising part of this transition so far?
Well, I've been tasked at remessaging. Actually, it was asked for a rebrand, but we targeted remessaging instead, going much more aggressive, getting rid of stale messaging of like your all-in-one lender, things that you're going to see throughout like the industry, everybody's saying the same thing, and really kind of turn it on its head and really speak to execution, no BS, and just closings. We're going to go really hard at the target of we are the people that will execute and we are the people that are going to get you to the next level. We're building out some programs that will do that, from certificate to loyalty. Hit the ground running in the last 2 weeks and just want to be able to affect the marketplace in a very smart, strategic way.
That's great. Sounds like you've been quite busy the first couple of weeks here. Great, great.
Yeah,
So one of the things that really caught our attention is your path to get there. And I mentioned some of it in the upfront there. And I always like to start these by really understanding the road that led to the seat that you're in here today. Can you take us back? How did your career journey begin?
Yeah, let's go back on that DeLorean. So it was very unorthodox. I follow trend in marketplaces, like, where it's needed, where it's not. I was definitely in the creative for a long time until I started seeing the shift. My last time I really held the helm of creative was at Samsung, and I was the same person at the table constantly saying, I would say this a lot to like the kids that I talk to or to my staff is, I hate the I feels. Then Salesforce and HubSpot and CRM started coming in and dashboards and analytics. And that's where it got exciting. I wanted to take that creative element, which is the hybrid in me, and put it into the marketing in me, which is more of like the dashboards and understanding KPIs and return on investment, because now I no longer have the I feels. I have the data behind me of decision making and why we do things versus like my gut said.
Yeah. So a lot of data. I'm sensing you're a numbers person, huh?
Well, I'm both. It's both sides of the lobes. You really have to be able to do that, like, use whatever you have creatively and whatever you have like analytically. And I think that's the new marketplace, is that you have to be a hybrid. There's no more of, well, that's not creative, I don't want to do it. Anything that you're going to put your hands on is creative, even if you're the guy that's just like, running the data warehouse. It's how are you segmenting it? Is there a life cycle approach? There's a creative way of doing everything. It's just you kind of have to look at it that way.
Yeah, yeah. So, as I understand, you had a fashion brand, I should say, early on. Was that part of your creativity coming out there? Tell us a little bit about that kind of journey and where that came about in your career.
Well, that was super fun. I always wanted to have my own label. I was looking to do garments. And I think when it comes down to it, I'm always pragmatic. I'm always looking at a strategy before I'm just jumping in. And what I noticed was I would just sit in Nordstrom. It was a very Sam Walton Walmart approach, where were people buying? And without seeing the numbers that weren't public, I was seeing that the accessory division was making Nordstrom. They didn't even have to show me their numbers or be that like obvious. The accessory division was simple. And to me, it was the psychology of the sale. You don't have to actually fit into the dress. There was no loss leader. There was no like 0 to 12 size range. It was one size fits all. So I went into accessories based on that. It wasn't the creativity. It was more of the marketplace. So I first found my target, and I knew I could put all of my creative energy into that and be successful. I started doing accessories that would function and not just be pretty. So it was fashion meets function. I was doing a lot of things for travel overnight. And then I moved into different styles, different SKUs as clients said they wanted more. It was absolutely organic in growth, but it picked up fast and I had to be ready for it. Uh, Within about 6 months, I had to have a showroom in New York City. I had overhead. Anything that I did, I tried to do it as wisely as possible. Instead of having my own showroom, I rented space to like 9 other designers. I helped them get their press out. I helped them with their businesses in return for rent and
Wow.
space. So I was always careful to never be in the red, to always show growth and potential. And like I do to this day is I always put things out when it's at 80%, not when it's at 100, because I don't want to be the last one to the marketplace. It's that theory of Bill Gates. Keep putting up the iOS system and keep updating it rather than waiting for it to be perfect.
Yeah, wow, that's great and great advice. Very entrepreneurial. I love how you approach that. And speaking of entrepreneurial, so then you were an agency founder at one point as well. Tell us about that.
So after it was called World According to Jess, the fashion label. It wasn't that it was failing; it was that my life was changing. I was getting married. I had 4 kids. The the industry was a little bit harder than I had expected, with like making sure that overhead was going out and that we weren't in a loss area. And so I decided to sell off my product line and not go the Marshalls route. I never wanted to bastardize the brand. I never wanted to sell it off to different people. I had investors looking to. And instead, I decided, okay, we're going to shut this label that's been wildly successful for 8.5 years and move into an agency approach. Because what I discovered in my own business was I loved marketing. It's the absolute psychology of the sale. One of my favorite books is god awful boring to read, but it's really interesting in the idea of it, is Sam Walton at Walmart, like American Made. I loved that idea of that he went into the places and he discovered the pain points and he discovered, like, where was their underbelly, what weren't they doing right. And a lot of times nobody's looking at their competitors first before they're building out their plans. So in starting the agency, that's what I was going to look for, is every single client that I had was their pain point and how do we answer that, instead of listen, kind of ignore and come up with my own plan. It was really listen, understand their competition, understand where they want to be in the marketplace, understand their target audience and what is their biggest pain point, and meet them there.
That's great. What type of clients were you working with?
At the time, our biggest client was Food Network, and I was working with a few other like clients here and there, like Faber-Castell. They're the largest art supply company in the world. They actually have a castle in Germany, and so it was great to work with them because they usually took on huge agencies with very large budgets, and they saw the benefit of a smaller agency, more boutique, where instead of a retainer, it was project based. For Faber Castell, they came to me and said, we're going to be in Toy Fair. We want this trade show to really be effective to us. We have this huge booth and we are going to have a 50th anniversary for Creativity for Kids. It was a subsidiary division. And they said, we want impact. And, molded over, put together a plan. The plan was we were going to take down Toy Fair. And my thing is always, people get excited when they see lines. Like, what's that line for? So we created a big celebration around their 50th anniversary. I got in touch with the Cake Boss people. We created a whole entire program around it because my goal was to take that trade show and give it tentacles, meaning it wasn't just about the trade show. It was about 3 months later when the Cake Boss episode aired. And at the trade show, it was VIP tickets to the event. So people had to come in like press or our number one stores, and they got to be part of the invite for the Cake Boss. So Toy Fair was not happy with not so much me, but them, because we shut down the aisle.
Wow, wow, that's great. That's so fun. So yeah, I love the forward thinking and out of the box thinking that you did there. So your journey didn't end there though. You were an agency, and then I believe you went client side at that point. Tell us about how that evolution happened.
Well, I kind of got poached. I met some people at Samsung that saw the mania going down at Toy Fair, and they wanted to know why. And I think somebody pointed to me and said, I think she dreamed it up. And so I started talking with them. It was a hard choice to give up the agency. I still kept a few clients, but when I really was vested into Samsung, it was kind of the end of it. And I started in as an art director, and I moved in as a creative director, and I loved it. The tech side of everything, just being aware of what was going to be happening next, looking to everything that they were doing that I didn't even know that they did MRIs, and they did, things for the government and for hospitals. And I really jumped into that B2B sector and loved it, because before that, I was 100% B2C. It was direct to the consumer. And it was just that changing of the mindset of, instead of putting it in one person's hand, I could put it in everyone in American Express's hand. So that got really exciting because it was a higher elevation to marketing.
Sure, sure. And then from Samsung, you went to fintech, is that right? Or
Absolutely. So from Samsung, I was sitting in a lot of boardrooms, and it was effective. It wasn't people snoozing. Everybody was working their butts off. But I was jealous of the marketing division because they had the data, and Salesforce and HubSpot and the CRMs were starting to come to light, and they were able to target and tell me analytics and who's our audience that it's really working with, and what's our full funnel approach. And I would have what I called the I feel this would be great. My gut says let's wrap a train in Penn Station because that's where the business people are. I was so sick of having the I feels that I decided to take a step back in my career. I would have loved to go for an MBA program. It just wasn't in the cards. So what I did was I created an MBA program for myself in the workforce. I took a few steps back. I got into an associate level position and moved my way up in marketing.
wow, that takes a lot of courage to do that, especially at that point in your career. So, yeah, any advice that other people that might feel kind of stuck, like maybe what you learned in that others might benefit from hearing?
Well, it's patience that I lack. I move rather quickly through the ranks, but I think it's really important to spot trend. I noticed that the creatives were moving into other countries. You could get things done much less expensive. They were cutting that department a lot. And so I was trying to trend where departments weren't being cut, and I still could use my creative mind and the analytical side of myself too. I did it a lot with just paying attention, listening to pain points like I always did from clients. I was listening for it internally in the company. My goal was always to create better user experiences because anything that flowed properly always led to a better conversion rate. So it was kind of like that obvious that not everybody looks at, that was really becoming like my success story of, no, this doesn't work for the client. It doesn't work for the business. It doesn't work for the customer. We need to make it better, and we need to react much faster than a week. It needs to be 2 days instead of 3 months. So that was my success rate, is making sure that things got turned on really quickly. And I was a huge fan of the A/B test too, because I never said no to a client. I never said no to my boss. Basically, I always said, let's test it.
Sure, sure. That's great. So that sort of leads us up into, where you're at, here today, with this new role that you're stepping into. Uh, I love how you have that mantra of, just 80%, let's get it done, let's move fast. Very much, I think, how the tech world, approaches things. In this new role that you're, at now, like, tell us a little bit about EPM for those that, might not be familiar. And let's maybe start there.
Oh, great. So EPM is wholesale B2B mortgage, and it's one of the top lending companies in the nation. It's led by a man named Eddie Perez. He's fantastic. A lot of great thinkers, people put together. And what's awesome about EPM is just the speed to closing and the resources that are being able to be given to these brokers, and just building up more programs to really bolster what they need to have a success story. With any company, there's always evolution, there's pain points, but it's this company's mentality is to address those pain points and to succeed. A lot of times I've been at companies where they see the pain points clearly and they ignore it. This company does not allow for ignoring. It is all about how are we going to be better and get out there to the marketplace in a very authentic way to be able to sell this product the best way we can.
Yeah.
which the product is lending.
Yeah, that's great. So, how do you decide? I mean, it's a big company. You're new to the role. How do you decide on what to tackle first? Is it the brand? Is it the team? Is it data? Is it content? Something else? Like, talk us through that process.
Oh, absolutely. So before I even started, I to give myself a winning edge in the interview, I put together a SWOT analysis after, when you're a CMO, you're going through like 8 or 9 interviews, you're just leveling up with every interview. I really listened to what were the pain points for each person I was interviewing with. And at the very end, when I met with the CEO, I had put together a SWOT analysis, basically figuring out their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, so that what he could see was there was a strategy before I even got to the company. A lot of times people build out strategy when they're there. I wanted to build out something that's like, do our thought patterns align? Are we on the same page prior to me even getting there? And pretty much we were in lockstep. Eddie is a very forward thinker. He is all about execution, which is awesome to work for. He doesn't stall. He says, yeah, go for it. Try it. If it doesn't succeed, what the hell? Let's just fix it. So some of the things that I really wanted to come on board and hit the ground running was making sure that they had a CRM that was highly personalized. A lot of what they were doing, when it was cold calls, of course it was personalized, but when it was email, SMS, text, was social, the personalization wasn't there as much. So what I plan to bring to this company in my almost 3 weeks is a life cycle approach to everything, so that people feel authentically approached by the team, instead of we think we know you, it's we know you. We know your pain point, we know your geo target, we know what you're after, and we're here to offer you what you need. If that's a certification program that we're building out to make sure that you understand your client and what they need, great. If it's a loyalty program to build out retention of why we love you so much and you deserve to know that we appreciate you, awesome. Or if it's just that segmented approach of understanding a prospect, a retention, an event, how do we go about speaking to these different cohorts differently instead of one size fits all messaging, which was a great approach when I was first in the industry. But as you know, that segmentation is clearly important now because people feel marketed to. And when you feel marketed to, you abandon because it doesn't feel authentic. So if I give you authenticity and I race to the finish line faster than the next person, chances are you're going to work with us. It's what launched the accessory company you mentioned when I was doing it for the 8 years. I mean, people would say to me, how'd you get on Sex and the City? Most simple. I answered the call and I was there in 10 minutes. I never waited. I'd bring the laptop and work on set. It didn't matter. It was Sex and the City.
Sure, sure. That's great. That's a great story too. So I'm assuming with what you mentioned here with personalization, technology is playing a role in that. Of course, I think we couldn't have a podcast these days without mentioning AI. But tell us a little bit about maybe where AI fits into that, or how else you're maybe thinking about it in the organization right now.
Absolutely. Everybody's trying to integrate AI into everything that we're doing. And as I've always said to like both the students I talk to and both myself as I research it is, you're only as good as the human at the helm. So if you're not asking the right questions, if you're not building it out correctly, AI will just pull a lot of things from the internet and basically spit out a lot of inauthentic marketing or structures or email campaigns that just feel like tired and the same old, same old. If you want to use AI to its best power, you got to keep pushing it. You got to keep building out keywords and you have to basically develop it for you. Of course, I'm using ChatGPT, but at the higher level, when it comes to paid media, I'm using StackAdapt so I can cut out some of like the middlemen. When it comes to creative, I've yet to find a creative that is awesome because it either looks like everything else or it comes out with 5 fingers. So I think that's something that they could do better. And I'm sure it's probably tomorrow there'll be something.
Right, right. Yeah, no, definitely. What about your team itself? Are you doing most of this work in house? Is it outsourced with partners? How does that look for your organization right now? And
Being new to this, I see that it's a bit of a combo platter, which is very comfortable to me because you always want an internal team that really harnesses that brand, understands the messaging. There's never water down because there's nothing worse than bastardizing a brand. And when I say that, I mean that it should never look like a fishing exercise, that the emails don't match the text, that don't match the advertising. it all has to be a symbiotic thing. And sometimes I always fear with an agency that it might lose that. With the agencies that we are working with, and as I'm getting to know, they've invested in the company for a while. So they really clearly understand that brand. They've built it out. And across the board, it's become very important, like institutionally, that we all are beating the same drum. So I've seen a lot of success with the agencies that they've hired. And I think I've had a lot of success internally just the short time I've been there. I think they are the heartbeat, is the people that they have working every day at EPM. They really understand that brand and they have a lot of heart behind it because we're trying to put out the most authentic lending experience. We're not trying to bamboozle anybody. We're not trying to say, like, we can close in 2 minutes. We're going to give you real time, real speed, real people, and authenticity.
Sure, sure. What type of work is currently kind of being held in-house versus with the agency partners?
Oh, sure. So in-house, we're doing a lot of the creative. We're doing a lot of the content build outs. We're also feeding into the CRM too. But as far as agencies, they're helping us with more of an AI approach. How can we look at different AI features to have SMS text that might be generated, to have avatars, to possibly even have like phone messages. But again, in all the research, we're making sure that there's an authenticity button there, that we're not just going full AI and finding that like you really need a human.
Sure, sure. Makes sense. Great. So I know you're only a couple of weeks in, but what's maybe a marketing challenge that you're facing right now that's keeping you up at night already?
Well, the remessaging is really important to me, and I want to make sure that it's bold, but it's not so bold that people wouldn't find it sticky. So that's been keeping me up. Luckily, the CEO of our company loves the remessaging that I'm coming up with, but it is very bold. It is not stale. It's not your all-in-one lender. It's more of that just do it mentality. So it's clear and it's practical and it's smart and it's a little in your face. So I'm excited when it will come out. I wish I could tell you, but it's so different in the lending atmosphere that I think it will get a lot of notice. So much so sometimes it might be like, whoa, are we in lending? Because this feels like a marketing campaign that Nike would do.
Wow. Well, I'm looking forward to checking that out once it becomes public. So that's great. Well, I appreciate that.
Well, I can
Um,
tell you the tone of it. So just
okay.
as a hint, it's
Yeah.
my tone that I've come up with is Wall Street energy meets blue collar execution. So that to me is like you've got the strategy and the brilliance and like all of that of Wall Street, but blue collar execution. You've got like my immigrant grandfather who will like get it done in like 2 minutes and wants it harder than the next person.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that fits you as well from what I'm learning about you here today. So that's great. I love it. So I'd like to shift gears now a bit. As we've discussed, we have most of the listeners here are in the agency space, and you've got a unique perspective, being that you were an agency founder. You also have obviously are in a C-suite, CMO role, working with agencies. Um, how should an agency be thinking about forming partnerships with brands? If for someone like yourself, I'm assuming that you've been in the business a long time, you've got relationships. But let's say, for example, there isn't an agency that can fit what you do. Where do you go to try to find and discover new agencies?
A lot of times it's at events. I'm meeting people. I could like the energy of people, meeting them one on one, understanding how hard they're going to work for you. There's amazing agencies, and I have worked with them, and they are not all about the retainer and eating it up and the hours and like, nitpicking every last thing. They really want to grow with you. But then there's the agencies that will just cover you in retainer fees and they gobble it up within seconds and they might have created 2 web banners that like, I could have blinked and made 67. So you have to be really careful with that. My greatest success stories with agencies is that they want to grow tentacles. They want it to be bigger than the project that you gave them. And they come with even more ideas than were offered at the beginning. And they keep coming with that. And they are not stingy in their work ethic. They are in it. They almost feel integrated into your company, so much so that if you were in an event, somebody would think that they were part of the company.
That's great. That's great. So events, interesting. Okay. What about thought leadership? Are you someone that is looking at thought leadership content that agencies are publishing? What makes you if you even read it, what would make you stop and check it out?
Oh, absolutely. I was just speaking to an agency before this that they work with. They had told me that they have once a week a webinar that they put out on AI. Wow, that's incredibly sticky to me. AI is changing all the time. What a great webinar to put out. And I said, please put me on that list. I want to be part of your webinar. And they thought, oh, really? And I said, absolutely. That's so exciting to me. We even talked about a certification program. People should get badges. They should have it on their LinkedIn that they like graduated from their certification. I think it's important to look at the marketplace, see the pain point and what people want to hear versus what you think would be fun to talk about. Right now, the marketplace is all a buzz about AI. It's all anybody talks about. I'm also an advisor at some colleges and recently at Rutgers. That's all they could talk about. How do you use AI? I use AI all the way down into coding. I even ask our staff to be able to like put the code through AI, make sure it will reformat in every way possible because sometimes it's the small things that you like take for granted that, oh yeah, the email's fine. No, it's not. It didn't pull up on mobile properly. We look silly. So AI is fantastic for everything for soup to nuts.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, interesting about that the agency was so surprised that you would actually want to join and continue to learn. What about awards? I know a lot of agencies are participating in awards, whether it be the Effies or Ad Age lists, and there's some debate on whether CMOs actually look at those reports and what impact that may have. I'm curious your thoughts, being on both sides of the coin there. What do you think about awards?
It's nice to get awards. It's nice to see that people are being recognized, but a lot of times I'm looking at the substance. What was the award for? Was it something that I really believe in? Was it a thought pattern that was wildly awesome? Or was it something so doldrum that I've seen a million times? It's like, what were you awarded for? I think it's nice to be in those kind of sectors. It's kind of like the Oscars. It kind of gives you like that stamp of approval that, yeah, this is a company worth looking at. But then once you get past the award, is the company like able to really do the work that you need it to, and are they going to think outside of the box? Because a lot of times I'll work with agencies that are just giving me a cookie cutter fashion of what they do with everybody. I look for somebody that is a little bit more guerrilla and tactic. I want something so sticky that you've never seen it before.
Yeah, yeah. And kind of along the same lines, what about like the typical trade publications, your ad ages and ad weeks? Is that something you're following and kind of keeping abreast of what's happening with agencies, or are you more focused maybe on your own industries that you're following? Curious about that.
I'm not really looking at that. I look at LinkedIn a lot. I think agencies have the power to really get out there in LinkedIn, and the ones that have rose to the top, they're the creative directors. They're the people that are actually in the agency talking about the projects that they're doing, showing the work that they're doing, and really excited about what they did, showing me like why they loved it. What was the pain point? What did they have to change? Where was it to begin with and where did it end? It's really exciting to see that journey. And that sells me a lot more than an award or an ad weekly. It's seeing that their internal structure, the people that they hire are excited to do the work.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And we are big proponents of using LinkedIn, and it's funny to me how many agencies still feel, well, that's for job searches, and it's really evolved in becoming a thought leadership platform and a place to share your voice. And it's great to hear that is a place that you turn to. Yeah, a couple more questions along this line here. If you were running an agency today trying to get the attention of a CMO like yourself, what would be one thing that you would do maybe differently than you see others doing?
Hmm. Well, I think that you really have to understand the company before you even get there. A lot of times it's like they're learning while they're there. I think reconnaissance is incredibly important that they kind of go in knowing, I see your pain point as a consumer, not as an agency. Because at the heart of everything is we're all consumer based. We all know what works and what doesn't work. And I think it's important to create those SWOT analyses before you even get there to say, listen, I know what I've seen, and now I want to hear your voice, and I want to give you some ideas to tempt versus I have nothing until you put a retainer down. That gets really scary to me because you really want to understand like what excites the person, and it's about your industry. It's not about their past portfolio.
Right, right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, good. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. I'd like to kind of close this out here, and maybe would love to hear from like a leadership perspective. What do you ultimately hope that your team or your agency partners would say about you as a leader?
Well, I'd like to say that, I'm always like open to new ideas, that I'm hearing everybody at the table, but I'm really careful to decide which path we're going to go on. I think that a brainstorm is awesome, but a brainstorm without execution is just fluff. So I think most people would say that, yeah, Jess hears me out. She hears what we're doing. She's like deciphering it in her head. And at some point, she's putting it into categories. Okay, we're going to run with this. This is middle of the road, and this is parking lot. Here's what we're going to go out with. Here's our time frame. Go, go, go. That's what they usually hear from me. It's never, let's sit on and think of it. And so I like working with partners that are all about execution, because the greatest of ideas sometimes just get pushed to the back because somebody else went to market first.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's great advice, and I think a great way to end the show here and inspire everybody to take action. I think that was one of the big themes that I walked away from. Person.
Just do it. I didn't come up with that.
No, no, but that's great. So this has been a really great conversation. I really appreciate you sharing your story, your insights. For everybody listening, if you found this helpful, be sure to follow CMO Journeys. We have many more of these stories coming out in the weeks ahead here. I'm Christian Banak. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode of CMO Journeys. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.